Well, top of the hour, we get your major revelation that has now emerged in Murshidabad violence. As far as a report that has now been submitted by a fact-finding committee appointed by the Calcutta High Court has brought the truth out in the open. Now, this report delivers a serious blow what the narrative was said by West Bengal government, directly implicating a Trinamool leader and a municipal councillor in violence that erupted last month. Now, the committee's findings contradict the Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee's earlier claim that violence was a work of outsiders' claim, and now that very claim stands discredited. According to this report, the violence which coincided with the passage of the Waqf Amendment Bill was deliberately targeted at the members of the Hindu community, leading to widespread loss of life and property. Now, this committee, comprising of members from National Human Rights Commission, the West Bengal State Legal Services Authority and the Judicial Services, conducted field visits to worst-hit areas, including Bedbona, Shamsherganj and other areas as well, where they have been speaking to the people, they have been speaking to the victims to get a first-hand information. Let's get on a word from Pooja, who's connected with us live. Pooja, this is a fact-finding committee that was appointed by the Calcutta High Court, and it is damning. Whatever has been said and a narrative that was said by West Bengal's TMC government, all of that has now been contradicted, saying that it was an organized riot. And of course, when it comes to any absence or inaction by the state police in controlling the riots.
Well, absolutely. We've seen how the state government has maintained that some outsiders led this entire mob and resorted to violence in Murshidabad. But earlier we've seen how BJP leaders, especially the leader of opposition Shuvendu Adhikari, taking to Twitter and sharing videos where clearly the councillor and chairman was seen leading the mob. But now this particular committee, which has been constituted by the Calcutta High Court, and they had visited the affected areas and spoken to people whose houses and shops were ransacked, vandalized and torched. In this particular report, they've clearly said how the chairman and also they have also named a local councillor from the Trinamool Congress as being seen during the violence and also led the mob. And now we're also getting a reaction from that particular TMC local councillor from Murshidabad, Mehboob Alam, and is clearly saying that he was not present in Bedbona at that point in time. There's another area in Shamsherganj which is called the Nadab area, and he was stuck there for almost 4 hours when he tried to reach out to the police and say that the police was nowhere to be seen and they did not try to control the riot that had broken out in Shamsherganj.
All right, developments that are now coming in of an alleged involvement of a TMC leader and councillor being involved in the violence that shook the district. However, when it comes to this report, because Pooja, it completely contradicts also from the report that was submitted by the state government itself, where they have been speaking about how much involvement there was of the police and the authorities to contain the situation. Well, as far as this report is now concerned, we also talk about Murshidabad violence, the fact-finding committee, the highlights, and of course, when it comes to the inactivity and the inaction on part of the police, what is being said that has been highlighted in this report. Yes, Pooja, what was the state government report that was also submitted and the contradictions that are now being drawn?
Well, not just the Chief Minister, but other leaders of the Trinamool Congress also. We've seen how they have gone on to say that the mob was led by outsiders. There were some outsiders who had entered the Shamsherganj area in Murshidabad where violence had broken out. So clearly, the state government continued to maintain that there were outsiders. But this particular report totally contradicts that outsider narrative and also says that the mob was led by locals, and there were also Trinamool Congress local leaders who were seen leading the mob in parts of Shamsherganj and Dhulian, where houses and shops of a particular community were targeted, and one particular community, as far as Hindus are concerned,
who were forced to flee from their homes, women who were threatened, can they now find their way back and seek safe shelter in their homes that were once vandalized, and direct threats that were given to those families? Let's talk about the findings. that directly implicate Amirul Islam, who is the TMC MLA, and Mehboob Alam, who is the TMC councillor in this case. As the panel has also highlighted complete breakdown of law enforcement and stating that the police was entirely inactive and in many cases absent from violence-hit areas. Now, the report also describes the scenes of devastation where several homes were damaged. There was widespread incidents of loot and arson targeting commercial properties. Many of them belong to the members of the Hindu community. Now, as far as when it comes to the reactions by opposition BJP that has been coming in, they are now taking on the TMC and West Bengal-led government of Mamata Banerjee based on this the findings of this fact-finding report. This is BJP's Amit Malviya, who has now blamed directly Mamata Banerjee's TMC for abetting the Murshidabad riots, citing a Calcutta High Court appointed committee report. He has gone on to allege that local TMC leaders, the police and the civil officials turned a blind eye as Hindu homes were attacked, calling it as orchestrated bid to engineer demographic change in the border district. Now, this is how the BJP mainly has been reacting, taking on the West Bengal government on the fact-finding team, the report that has now been taken up.
A Calcutta High Court appointed fact-finding committee has completely exposed the TMC government, and it has shown how the Murshidabad riots that took place in the name of Waqf were not spontaneous but sponsored, not organic but organized, and it was state-sponsored, state-protected, targeted violence against Hindus, which was led by no less than a TMC leader, Mehboob Alam. How the police remained inactive, how Hindus were specifically targeted. But on the other hand, what do we see? That Mamata Banerjee and her government has defended the rioters. So one thing is clear, TMC means तुष्टिकरण मुझे चाहिए.
Well, let's get in a word from Mohit as well, who is connected with us. Mohit, the BJP taking on the West Bengal government basis on this very fact-finding panel's report that has now been taken up, which was appointed by the Calcutta High Court. Exactly what position does it leave for the TMC government when it comes to all of the details that have now been pointed out, why the situation escalated to such a level?
Well, you see what Amita, BJP is saying, that the first claim of Mamata Banerjee and the TMC regarding the Murshidabad riots was that it was being done by the outsiders. But when we see this particular report, BJP says, it clearly says that how Mehboob Alam, the local TMC leader, was leading the miscreants, how he indulged in vandalism, and twice his name has been mentioned in the report, that how he was involved in vandalism, how he was there at the place where the violence was happening, and the name of, as you rightly pointed out, the TMC MLA has also come out. So the BJP says that Hindus were specifically targeted, and in fact the police was nowhere to be seen as part of the report, and also that how the TMC leaders were inciting the mob to loot, vandalize and destroy the houses, properties owned by Hindus. So the BJP says that it was an attack on the Hindu community that happened, and it was being given shelter, it was being given protection by the Mamata Banerjee government, and police did not take any action, as we can see in the report, that how police was absent when the whole incident was happening, how when the vandalism was happening, when the incident of arsons were being reported. So clearly we see that how the massive politics have started over this particular issue. BJP says that it nails lie of the TMC government. We have to wait and watch how will Mamata Banerjee and TMC react to the findings of this particular report.
Well, we are already getting a first breaking update of the response coming in from the TMC's side. Let's put that out for our viewers. In this breaking update, what we are learning, this is the first response. The TMC leader who has now been indicted in the Murshidabad riots panel report, this is Mehboob Alam, who has pledged innocence and has now been putting as far as the blame on the BJP and the RSS, calling it as a political conspiracy.
हम लोग कहाँ था उस दिन? हम लोग जो 12 तारीख उस दिन मैंने मेरा वार्ड का एक गांव था, उस वहाँ का नाम है कदमतला में था। उस दिन अचानक देखा जो कुछ दुष्कृति जिसको कहते हैं, वो छोटा छोटा बच्चा, उसके हाथ में तलवार और कुछ सामान था। पुलिस को फोन किया, पुलिस के पास कोई रेस्पॉन्स भी नहीं मिला। तो हम नादपड़ा से बेदबना कब गया, पॉलिटिक्स का शिकार होता है। हम लोग पॉलिटिक्स करता है, ये बीजेपी और आरएसएस का चक्रांत है।
Well, as Pooja is connected with us, we talk about as far as when it comes to this first reaction that has now come in from the TMC leader there, however, rejecting and calling the findings of this report as baseless, and meanwhile blaming the opposition BJP for inciting and fomenting trouble. But what exactly are these findings that actually directly point out, and when it comes to directly points fingers, when it comes to the West Bengal government here? Let's put that out one by one. Now, this panel report that had been appointed by the Calcutta High Court itself, one of the findings say that there is involvement of TMC MLA and a councillor, one of them the reactions that we heard denying any involvement. However, the report also goes on to say that the police was completely inactive and were absent from the areas where there were incidents of vandalism and arson that was reported, saying that several homes that were severely damaged, and there has been loot and arson of commercial property, something that was allowed to continue for several days, and that has been the impact that has now been seen post the Murshidabad riots, which is now being called as an organized act. Pooja, coming back to you on that first reaction coming in from the TMC side, but this is on the expected lines as far as this report is now concerned. The leader himself coming out to give a clean chit to himself, saying that there is no involvement.
Well, absolutely. The reaction first coming in from the same TMC councillor who has been named in the report, Mehboob Alam. He's saying that he was not present in the Bedbona village as mentioned by the report, and rather he was present in this particular place called Nadab Pada, and he had to take refuge in a house for almost 4 hours, and he reached out to the police, and the police remained absent for several hours, and he was constantly calling them to bring the situation under control. But as far as him leading the mob is concerned and the allegations against him, he's completely ruling them out, saying that he was not even present in the Bedbona village as mentioned by the report.
All right, Pooja, thank you very much for joining in. Remains to be seen exactly what happens from here on as far as this report is now concerned, which was appointed by the Calcutta High Court itself, has given out shocking details of what happened during the Murshidabad violence. Let's move